In the ancient narratives of the Book of Exodus, the 10 plagues of Egypt stand as monumental events that ultimately led to the liberation of the Israelites from bondage. These events, often interpreted as divine interventions, depict a range of extraordinary occurrences, from rivers turning into blood to the death of the firstborns across Egypt. Yet beyond the scriptural accounts, modern researchers have delved into the possibility of natural explanations for these plagues. Today, we explore each cataclysmic event in turn and consider both the traditional and scientific perspectives. The story begins with the transformation of the River Nile into blood. According to Exodus, this plague caused the water to become undrinkable, leading to the death of fish and profound suffering for the Egyptians. Some researchers propose that a natural phenomenon, such as a red algae bloom or the presence of red-colored clay, could explain this occurrence. These algae can deplete oxygen, causing fish to die and tainting the water with a reddish hue. Following this, the second plague brought a swarm of frogs across Egypt. Traditional teachings view this as a direct response to Pharaoh's continued enslavement of the Israelites. However, scientists suggest that the sudden appearance of frogs might be linked to the upheaval in the river ecosystem caused by the previous plague. With predator fish dying off, frogs would have thrived, spilling into the land in overwhelming numbers. The third calamity was the invasion of lice or gnats, and it's proposed that an increase in mud and wet conditions, favorable to insects, could have arisen from the disrupted ecosystem. This environmental change could have led to a proliferation of small biting insects that plagued the people of Egypt. The fourth plague saw swarms of flies descending upon the land. Some researchers suggest that, much like the previous plague, this could be explained by natural factors. The decay and death brought by the earlier plagues could have created ideal breeding conditions for flies and other pests. Next came a catastrophic event that affected the livestock of Egypt. The death of these animals is traditionally viewed as a divine act. However, some suggest it might have been an outbreak of a cattle disease, exacerbated by the flies and environmental changes from earlier plagues. Following the livestock plague, the Egyptians suffered from painful boils. Researchers theorize that these could have resulted from infectious agents spread through flies or contaminated water sources, causing widespread dermatological afflictions. The seventh plague brought a devastating hailstorm described as the worst Egypt had experienced. The notion of divine intervention here is compelling, yet climatologists have considered whether this might be accountable to a rare weather phenomenon where atmospheric conditions align to produce an unusually severe storm. After the hail, a plague of locusts descended upon Egypt. These insects are well documented as capable of stripping landscapes bare, and while traditionally viewed as part of the divine narrative, they are known to swarm following specific climatic cues. The preceding weather disturbances might have created ideal conditions for their appearance. The ninth plague cast a profound darkness over Egypt for 3 days. Traditionally, this event is seen as a demonstration of divine dominance over the Egyptian sun god Ra. Some suggest this could be attributed to a massive sandstorm or volcanic activity, both capable of blotting out the sun for extended periods. Finally, the 10th and most grievous plague brought death to the firstborns of Egypt. According to the narrative, this was the ultimate divine act that compelled Pharaoh to release the Israelites. While some suggest a natural cause like a sudden epidemic or poisoning event, this remains the most difficult plague to explain beyond its theological context. As we reflect on these plagues, it's clear that they have had a lasting impact on religious teachings and cultural history. Whether viewed through the lens of traditional belief or scientific inquiry, the plagues illustrate a dramatic narrative of liberation and divine power. They challenge us to consider the complex interplay between natural events and their interpretation over millennia. In conclusion, the 10 plagues of Egypt continue to fascinate and mystify. They reveal the richness of our narrative traditions and the endless quest for understanding our world. Whether interpreted as acts of divine will or natural phenomena, they remind us of the power of stories to shape our collective imagination and inspire generations.